Beautiful people, I greet you according to your time. Guys, this is Nansume. She has finally shared her surrogacy's journey. And honestly, after watching this video, I have learned never to judge anybody in this life. And honestly, if you watch this video, you will understand what actually went down with Nancy Ume and her husband in the mix of looking for babies. Then that is why I said never you judge anybody, because hearing all these things that Nancy Ume in this video, what you are going to hear from her, you will understand that actually Nancy Ume really suffered, she and her husband, while trying to conceive for their third baby. You see, that is the reason why you don't need to judge anybody, because you don't know what people are going through. You don't know. Many of us, when she came out to to announce about her surrogacy, and many of us, if you go to her comment section, people were judging her. People were like, God forbid, I cannot do surrogacy, this, that. You don't know what someone has, what they have gone through before they finally make that decision. Do you know that that is the hardest decision a husband and a wife can actually do? And to tell you how open Nancy Ume is, like how many mothers have gone through this way to have their children, but no one come to share the experience. But because Nancy Ume is as open as her sister Cora Obidi, that is why, and she know that many women as well doesn't know that this kind of, through this way you can actually have your biological baby. So she came out to let people know and to tell people that there are many ways you can actually get baby, not allowing those people, maybe other TTC mommies, to suffer while they are, there are many ways you can actually, with the help of God, you can actually have your own baby, biological baby. And she came out openly to share it so that other women can also learn about it. Then wow, before you know it, people started talking down on her, saying so many things. In fact, let me not talk too much. But after watching this video, guys, honestly, if you don't learn how to never to judge any person in this life, then this video, then I don't know when and how you can, stop judging people. Take a look at this video.
My people, I'm going to tell my story in 3 parts because I don't want it to be too long. My emails are filled up, my DMs, avalanche. So my daughter is 3 weeks old. I think I'm settled now, so I can tell you guys my story now. It all started way before we even got married, when I discovered that I had PCOS. When I was in university, I would stay for like 6 months without seeing my periods. And I thought, okay, maybe it's because I'm very skinny. I mean, I was a nurse. So I knew about PCOS, but I didn't take it seriously. It was until I saw my ovaries in an ultrasound. That was when it dawned on me that, wow, Nancy, look at your ovaries. This is a lot of eggs. How are you gonna cope? I knew I was gonna have to put in some more, some effort to bear children, but I did not realize, that God will bless us so effortlessly. Because when we got married, before we got married, I was in the UK. I decided to get my life right. I was eating, I was exercising, I was eating clean, I was taking my supplements. You guys, my period became regular in the UK. Before I came back to Nigeria, I was seeing my period every 28 days on the clock. So, and I was ovulating. I was jubilating at the time, like, oh my God, PCS has got nothing on me. Yes, let's go. Got married November ending. By December ending, I was pregnant. Yeah, I was pregnant by December ending because my daughter was born in September, early September. So yeah, that's how fertile I was. My daughter was not even up to 5 months old when I took in again. Yes, and this time around, I took in with twins, unassisted, no IVF, no IUI. I took in again, this time around with twins. I was already coping with my daughter who was 5 months breastfeeding. When I did find my period, I was like, hey, what's happened? I checked, I was pregnant. By the time it was 3 months and I discovered that it was twins, I was already thinking of, oh my God, how am I going to cope? Like, that pregnancy was so traumatic that I told myself, Guy, I have to do family planning after this pregnancy. It was when I was in the US, my doctor was asking me, how far, what do you want to do? I said, just do anything. I cannot afford to get pregnant again because I might just, I might just lose it. So we were, going through options, and I wanted something that wouldn't take too long because I wanted our son to be like 1-2 years before we started trying again. So I opted for the implant, for Implanol. I put the Implanol in, and one thing I noticed was that I was bleeding consistently for 3 months, back to back, every single day, non-stop, for 3 whole months. I had never bled that long. I mean, I had PCOS. Sometimes I would have long periods where I won't see my period, and then boom, I'll see my period for a long time. But 3 months, that's when I knew something was wrong with that Implanol. So, coupled with the fact that I was getting really depressed, I was feeling so bad. I was having mood swings, very bad mood swings. My husband said, please though, whatever it is you put in your arm, you need to go take it out because you're acting kind of weird. And I knew it, when you know that you are acting weird, but you cannot even help it. That's what happened to me, guys. So eventually, after like a year of suffering, I took it out. Lo and behold, I started looking for my period. I did not find it. I was like, period, where are you? Period. Period is like, I'm gone. I'm on vacation. You guys, it shocked me because 6 months after I took out my Implanol, no periods whatsoever. I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I used to do before I got married. I'm going to start eating right. I'm going to start sleeping right. I'm going to start my exercise. Yo, what's up with my supplements? I found out, I gathered all my supplements, started taking again. Lo and behold, after like 6 months, my periods started to come back. They weren't as consistent. They were 31 days, sometimes 40 days. But I was happy I was seeing them. All right? So I became very consistent. And then boom, they started coming back again. And I was so excited. I was like, okay, now it's time to try again for another baby. So we started timing the periods, started, having X during the time that I would be ovulating. But nothing was happening. We tried at least 1 whole year after I took out my implant with no success whatsoever. We didn't get pregnant, not once. So I knew that, okay, something was happening. It was right before the pandemic. I saw one of my friends, one of my doctor friends in Nigeria, Dr. Ogunkinle. We had worked together at the Bridge Clinic over a decade ago. So I was like, okay, I'm seeing all these other doctors now, but I want you to have a look. What's up with me? So I booked another round of tests, HSG, hysteroscopy. I did everything, guys. Everything was okay. There was absolutely nothing wrong. So he said, you know what? Let's try IUI. And then I was like, okay, IUI. So we did IUI, 2 cycles unmedicated. Then we tried again, I think 4 cycles with clomid, and I think I can't remember the other drug. We tried 1 more cycle with injections, that's IUI with injections. And no show, no pregnancy whatsoever. So on my own, I decided to try IUI. Sorry, not IUI. I decided to try like a targeted, medicated TTC in my bedroom with clomid, and we got pregnant. But we miscarried. The second time we got pregnant. However, I think it was a chemical pregnancy because it was just after 2 weeks I bled again. So that's how the miscarriages started. All right. After the whole IUI saga, it was the pandemic, so we decided to try by ourselves. So we were trying. We were getting pregnant, and it was just coming down. Like, I was just like, what's going on? Okay, so I was like, okay, I need to be sure that an embryo is actually in there. So I decided to go for the big brother. So that's IVF. I called all my friends. I was like, yo, I want to start IVF. Let's see if this will work for us, because I know that with IVF, everything is medicated. It's a medicated pregnancy. You have a lot of progesterone support. So, I mean, that should help the embryo to stay put. I was like, okay, let's try this. Guys, I used 2 clinics. I'm not going to mention their names. But one thing I will tell you is that if you're trying to conceive in Nigeria and you walk into any clinic and anybody judges you based on your history, it is time for you to leave, okay? If anybody judges you based on the fact that, for me, I had 2 children, I had 1 boy, 1 girl, so people will be like, what are you looking for in an IVF clinic? Excuse you. So I just didn't like that, okay? The fact that you feel that people that have children already should not look for more children, or they have 1 child already, go and sit down, people have none at all, so you shouldn't be complaining. We had a goal for our family. We hoped to expand our family because we wanted more children. You see the way I am with my siblings. I have 3 siblings. My husband also has 3 siblings. That is what we wanted for our children. A large family that they could fall back on, because in life it is so important. In fact, sometimes your success is mainly based on how much support you have as a family, right? 2 clinics I went to, they judged me. I'm not going to mention them. One of them, we had a somewhat successful cycle, ended up in miscarriage. And then I decided to, you know what, let me just go holler at my friends. I contacted Dr. Ogunkinle, who we also did one of the IUI cycles with. And he was like, okay, come in, let's see what's going to happen. So we did. And that is when we started getting very serious with this, all right? What we noticed was that my lining wouldn't get past 7 mm. You need your lining to be as thick as 8 mm to be able to implant, an embryo for it to actually be, carry a viable pregnancy. But this was something that was missed in so many other clinics. But this time around, he did everything to get my lining to 8 mm, and he just didn't want to grow past 7 mm. I took Viagra. I took Viagra in one of my cycles to thicken my lining. That's how dedicated my doctor was to keeping my lining thick enough for the embryos to come in. We had a fresh cycle that ended up with our embryos getting frozen, and then we came back to take those frozen embryos, but the cycle failed because my lining shed 2 days before my embryo transfer, right? That's when my doctor said, are you sure everything is okay? So the next cycle, he supported me with a lot of drugs, like I was taking Viagra, he did a lot of procedures, but he practically injected all sorts into my lining just to keep it thick for the embryo transfer. Eventually, it didn't shed, but that pregnancy was successful. That cycle was successful. And just when I was jubilating that, oh God, thank you, finally, we have a positive pregnancy and we have a thick enough lining to carry this pregnancy, boom, miscarriage. At this point, I said, oh God, please, God, I've suffered enough, God, I beg. You know how many times you have hopes and dreams that this will be your child. This will be the pregnancy that will end up with your child, and then nothing happens. You have this hope and you have dreams that this will be the pregnancy that you will carry till term, and then boom, miscarriage. At this time, I was getting fat, getting slim, getting fat, getting slim. People would body shame me online, say, oh my God, you're getting so big. I was taking drugs back to back to back to back. I was on medications, hormonal medications, straight up for 5 years. And all of them ended up in miscarriages. I knew I had messed up my lining. I wasn't sure where I went wrong. But the last pregnancy that we miscarried was the last straw for me. I told my doctor, I can't do this anymore. And he was like, I think it's time for you to try. gestational surrogacy. At the time, we had 13 embryos left. Sorry, we currently have 13 embryos. We had 15 embryos left, and I was done. I was done trying. All right, so I'm going to come back for the part 2, so you see what we did after my last miscarriage. All right.